Hello and welcome to another video from Easy Academy. In this particular video, we're going to be talking about how we can plan the size of our cluster as well as some of the specifications that we need when we're setting up an Apache Kafka cluster. So I will cover how you can set up your Kafka cluster with Zookeeper and without Zookeeper, and some of the things you need to pay attention to. So now we're going to get started by heading out to a particular website. So if you're not familiar with this tool, it is called eventsizer.io. It is a tool from Confluent where you can use this tool to specify the amount of data that is coming into your cluster in terms of megabytes per second or per day or something like that. And then you can also specify the number of clients that are pulling data out of the brokers, which I think they call a fan out. And then you can also specify how long you want to keep the data inside the cluster. So all these different factors are what you need to specify when you're setting up the cluster and you're trying to do an estimate of how many machines you need and so on for each of the components you are trying to run. So check out this website, and we're going to be using it for this tutorial. So if you head out to eventsizer.io, what you're going to find is you're going to find 4 different modes, but for beginners, I just want to focus on the simple mode. So if you check out the simple mode, when you open it, it's going to ask you to specify the ingress, meaning how much data is coming into your cluster. So you can specify 18 megabytes per second, but you can also specify that, in terms of other time units or time buckets like minutes, hour, and so on. But I'm just going to specify 18 megabytes per second. The fan out here is, typically how many applications or services or clients that are pulling data out of your broker. We're going to use 3 for that. And then we're going to say that we want to keep the data for 7 days. Again, you can specify, the duration in any time unit that you want, but typically people just use days. But if you want to do like, maybe 3 hours or 10 hours or 24 hours, you can choose that, and that would work for you. And then very important, we're going to pick Microsoft Azure for this particular cluster sizing. And you can take a look at the reference architecture here to see some of the details as to how we got this. But if you check this out, the broker instance type that is recommended is given, as well as the Zookeeper instance type. So if you're running your Kafka cluster with Zookeeper, you need to care about this. But if you're doing from version 2.8 and up, where Zookeeper is optional and not necessary, you can forget about the Zookeeper instance type and just focus on the brokers or any of the other components like Connect, REST proxy, schema registry, KSQL DB, and the control center. But other than that, the 4 important things you have to pay attention to is the ingress, meaning how much data is flowing into the cluster per unit time. The fan out, if you don't know what that means, just put 3. And then the retention is how long you plan to keep the data inside the broker. So the amount of data that is coming in and the amount of and the duration in which you plan to retain this data affects how much storage space you need for your cluster. And then obviously, you need to pick Microsoft Azure as your environment, and then we can proceed to do the cluster sizing. So once the calculation is completed, it will show you that you need 5 machines for the broker. You need 5 machines for Zookeeper. Again, if you're doing Kafka 2.8 or later, Zookeeper is going to be optional, so you can forget about that. If you're doing Kafka Connect, where you want to be streaming data from other sources into Kafka and then into other destinations like blob storage or event hubs or Cosmos DB, you can specify the number of connect workers you need for that. And then schema registry is for tracking the changing in the data structures for data that is flowing into these topics. This REST proxy allows you to use REST APIs to interact with the brokers to see what's happening in there. And then KSQL DB is a kind of a Kafka Streams application that is being used to process data inside Kafka using a SQL-like language. And then the control center, is a one-stop shop that you can use to monitor what's going on. And then it also has other functionality where you can use to interact with KSQL DB or some of the other connectors. But other than that, you have your results and the number of nodes you need, and the actual machine sizing and the specs you need is given in the previous page. So I wanted to cover this because sometimes you may wonder, how did you figure out that I needed 5 nodes or 25 nodes or 30 nodes and the specific machine type that you need? This tool would simplify that process, and you don't have to be a Kafka expert to understand how to complete your sizing. So for this video, that's all I have. And if you like this particular video, I would like you to subscribe to this channel. Click the notification icon so that you can get similar content when I do release them. Also, feel free to leave me comments in the for this particular video, so that if there's anything you would like me to do a deep dive on, I can go ahead and do so. I also have content on my GitHub page, and regularly I send tweets on Twitter as well as Instagram. And then on my website, you can find a course that I have that talks about massive data aggregation, which Kafka is one of the components that is discussed in that particular course. So, I'm going to have the link to the course in the description section for you to take a look at that if that's something that you're interested in. But other than that, this is enough for you to estimate the cluster size for your Apache Kafka cluster, and you can use that to get started without having to be a Kafka expert to understand what is needed. So thank you very much for your time, and I will see you in the next video.